My relationship with my husband's family is not very nice. I am a 32-year-old. Married for 6 years now, we have Aegon, a 4-year-old boy. Indeed, we are lovers of Game of Thrones. Kindly do not come for me in the comments. Being from a different culture than my in-laws, they do not really like me. Though I lean agnostic, they are really religious. They believe I am the reason Jay turned away from his beliefs. That is, the father made those decisions himself long before he even met me. Hence, I'm not sure from where all the anxiety comes from. All the same, people have certain preconceptions about me. We are definitely not close, even if we are friendly right now. Things settled out a lot between my mother-in-law and Aegon once he was born. She used to visit more. When we spoke, we were able to better grasp one another's points of view, which much helped to diffuse things. Mostly unconcerned by all the family strife is my father-in-law. All I want is respect from him. He does not meddle in our problems. On that front, then, things also look good. Moreover, he likes spending time with Aegon. Both of them simply dote on him. Indeed, everything is much better today, even if things were a little frigid at first. Jay has always been close to his parents, hence I can understand how much this means to him. My sister-in-law is the issue even if they no longer share the same beliefs. Female, 40-year-old Jay's sister, Joanna, has a 5-year-old daughter, Rachel. 2 years ago, Joanna's husband left her after she was discovered having an affair with his best friend. It was a mess overall, and he battled valiantly for Rachel's custody. He only gets her on weekends, though. Although neither Jay nor I support what Joanna did, we realized we had to support her since we are family, and it was a terrible time for her. I volunteered to keep Rachel with me during this period while Joanna arranged her belongings. Since Aegon was almost the same age, it wasn't very significant for me. Better still for both of them would be if they could play with a cousin. Joanna would then drop Rachel to my house in the mornings, go sort through her court paperwork, search for homes to rent, employment, etc., and then pick her up from there in the evening. Rachel and Aegon grew acclimated to one another's company after roughly a month of this. Rachel was naturally somewhat unhappy when she brought her full-time. Joanna considered it as a personal slight. She began to believe Rachel favored me above her, which was simply untrue. She is a tiny child, hence she does not think that way. Rachel liked playing with Aegon, hence she liked my place more than hers, as I told Joanna several times. Should a configuration allow for their playing together, the issue would automatically vanish. Joanna was obviously sensitive about this, and I don't really blame her. Her mood swings were erratic. She accused me of wanting to take her daughter, hence even though she was the one cheating, things became sour between us. At that, Jay had had enough. She should be grateful to us, he advised her, since we were aiding her nasty cheater. Conversely, though, she was the one dragging an attitude with us. She barely interacted with us, and it simply hurt a lot since her actions caused agony for the children. She was unaware, though, that her ex-husband now brought Rachel to our house on weekends so she could see Aegon. Though all of us knew it was just a matter of time before Rachel revealed the truth, he had sworn Rachel to silence. She would later have told her mother. At that time, she was barely 3 years old. Still, all of us felt the danger was well worth it. There was much drama as the major reveal at last took place. Mother-in-law and father-in-law had to step in and beg her to stop acting thick and start thinking about her daughter. She agreed to have Rachel and Aegon play together after some persuasion till she could at last see our side of things. The children do, however, genuinely love one another. Since they are so close in age, they gel really nicely, like siblings. Watching them is really a pleasure, especially given Jay and I had determined we would have just one child. Though I had always thought that a child would be miserable without a sibling, here we sort of have the best of all worlds. The children alternately visited one another's homes. Rachel visited sometimes, while Aegon visited Joanna or even her ex-husband other times. They stayed at mother-in-law and father-in-law most of the time. Things were good. Never once did I believe Joanna was carrying such bitterness toward me for all these years. I know I would have given Egon's safety top priority. I now find myself thinking of failing as a mother. With Joanna, things have been essentially well for the past 2 years. There is that. What counts to me is the kids get along. But yesterday changed all of this. Work has Jay out from town for a week. Just me and Egon at home. Even mother-in-law and father-in-law are on holiday. 2 days ago, I fell rather ill. I had nausea and a temperature running. Though nothing major, I still felt rather weak. I asked a friend over, and she assisted me. Rachel's turn to go home yesterday was yesterday, but I lacked the stamina to handle one child, much less two. So I told Joanna I was really sick and requested her to cancel. She kindly volunteered to cover Egon for the day so I may relax and recover. Since he would be spending his day with Rachel and I would have some time to relax and sleep, I really thanked her. After we worked on the schedule, Joanna mentioned she would get Egon up and bring Rachel and him to the adventure park in town. They might then also stay over her house. I could have an entire day to myself. This would exhaust them totally and they could enjoy it. Her act made me very happy as she has hardly ever showed me this kindliness. I could never have imagined that something was off. She offered to help since I assumed she really felt terrible for my illness. She arrived at midday and brought Egon with her the following day, yesterday. She informed me I had nothing to worry about and that he would be good, and I advised her to keep sending me updates once in a while. I dropped on the bed the minute he left the door. I need sleep and I was still running a temperature. Moreover, I knew Egon was with his aunt. Nothing would happen. He was protected. Even now, what might go wrong? I still had no tension or stress keeping me up. Although I'm not sure when I fell asleep, Joanna called at 2:05 p.m. Actually, it was the call that roused me. Later on, when I checked my phone, I saw she had phoned me once before, but I had gone asleep through it. I froze as I responded, hearing someone on the other side crying. He had hives all over his body and swollen eyes and face. I was furious all the way to the ER, rushing him there. Though I wanted to hit Joanna, I realized that right now my first concern had to be getting him to the hospital and looking after him. She could come under subsequent handling. When the physicians inquired whether he had any allergies that would have caused this reaction, I stated he had always had a nut allergy. Everyone handled it carefully. He asked me whether he had inadvertently consumed anything with nuts, but I told him he was with Joanna rather than with me. Joanna insisted he had not eaten anything containing nuts. Looking at us strangely, the doctor said Egon needed to be watched and that he would keep him under observation for some time. This was when Rachel started crying and claimed Mommy handed him my peanut butter sandwich, even though I warned her he couldn't eat it. I washed red. Right there in the hospital in front of everyone, I lunged at Joanna and smacked her. She tried lunging back at me, but the nurses caught her. The doctor hurried to check on Egon. Rachel was crying excessively and was gripped onto my leg as like her life depended on it when Joanna tried to push her away. I knew Joanna would tear the girl apart if she went back with her mother just now. I felt terrible for her. Rachel was safe, I told Noel when I called, but he still needed to visit the hospital. Rachel needed the correct parent right here with her. Joanna was trying to cause a scene and protesting, but she shut down when the nurses informed her that if she continued her actions, she would be removed away. Noel arrived. Rachel hurried to hug him. Looking at Joanna and me, he knew something was seriously wrong. By then, Egon was okay after spending a few hours in the hospital. Although the allergic reaction had been under control, they warned that family members should be more cautious about their diets. The doctor indicated he would be released the next day and would be kept overnight under observation. Noel volunteered to drive me home, but I stated I needed to discuss what occurred and that Joanna and Rachel were there and thus he had to be there as well. We proceeded to get a snack at a diner, and what Joanna told me just made me lose my stuff all over once again. Over all those hours, I had calmed myself somewhat, yet listening to that lecture made my fury boil. I asked Rachel first what happened. She peered anxiously at her mother, who was gazing at her. Joanna intervened and said she had to do the right thing, and that she should be honest about everything and not fear as she would defend her. Rachel was still rather anxious. Joanna was attempting to get Rachel to give us the truth while she was trying to start a racket, claiming things like we were bullying her daughter, and she would not stand for it. I advised her to quiet down and let the girl talk. Her intimidating strategies would not be effective longer. Rachel told us at last, however, it took some time. Joanna had handed them money to purchase sandwiches from the sandwich shop, she said. Whereas Aegon purchased a mixed fruit jam sandwich, Rachel bought a peanut butter sandwich. Aegon asked Rachel whether he might have a bite while they were on their way back, but she answered no since he wasn't permitted to consume peanut butter. Aegon's nut allergy is known to every family member, including him, hence I find it odd that he requested the sandwich. It's good Rachel had the foresight not to give it to him. She claimed he seemed a little depressed since he missed eating the lunch, not agitated. Why the devil was Joanna not with 2 small children in the first place when they returned to where she was? Why was Aegon being mopey, Joanna asked Rachel. When Rachel mentioned he wanted a taste of her sandwich, Joanna became enraged. She argued she had been trained better and she should be sharing things with her cousin, blah blah. At last, Rachel remarked she had to interrupt Mom to warn her Aegon couldn't have peanut butter. Joanna reportedly was not having any of it, though. Then Rachel tried to reject Joanna's attempt to convince her to give him the sandwich, while both of them started to sort of argue. But Joanna grabbed her sandwich from her own kid, calling her a lazy little brat. Rachel said at this point that she was crying as well as Aegon. If he ate that sandwich, she warned, he would become ill like Auntie advised. Joanna said, however, that this was all a harmless practical joke and nothing would happen to him. She handed him the sandwich, but by then Aegon, too, was in tears and declared he wanted to go back home rather than the sandwich. Joanna actually force-fed him the sandwich, though. Rachel did not use these precise words, but I know what Joanna was working on. Every bit of my will was used not to leap at Joanna and strangle her then and there. But I wanted to do none of this in front of Rachel. For the day, the poor girl had had enough. Mommy scares me, hence once she was done, she was in tears once more, hugged Noel, then stated she wanted to leave with him. Joanna was laughing all the while, as though trying to refute what Rachel was saying. She claimed she had no need to defend herself from people like me when I asked her whether she had anything to say in defense. She stated I had to have myself evaluated if I decided to believe a 5-year-old over a grown lady, as obviously I had just one sensible brain cell left in me. I was so very tired that I did not pursue for explanations or dispute with her. I'd advise her, though, that I would consider Rachel's version as the truth and act accordingly should she refuse to share her side of the story, that if one exists at all. Aegon comes first, therefore I cautioned her to be careful, even though I told her I had no power and she might be family. Jan, I would give him top priority, and while I was being gentle to her, she had no idea what Jay would do when I told him. That's when the panic started. Rachel was lying, hence she advised not involving Jay. She then began flitting about what had transpired, but I advised her to cut the rubbish. She blew the opportunity I gave her to explain, hence now she could deal with Jay personally. I often let Noel and Joanna work through their trash about Rachel together. Though I felt guilty about leaving Rachel behind, that night I lacked the means to deal with it. I am really appreciative of the child since she saved Aegon's life by calling me. I adore her greatly. She has a father who must intervene, hence even if I wish I could just whisk her away. I phoned Jay and told him everything on my way back. Stressed as he was, he mentioned he was planning to return. I informed him Aegon would be discharged the next day, and I had things under control. Still, he was resolute. I knew he gets anxious, so I didn't really stop him. Gun to my head, I could have had genuinely needed the help. Aegon is fully better now, hence we have no reason for concern. I am definitely not allowing Joanna to go, though, either. She has to pay for her purposeful endangerment of my child. She will, albeit I'm not sure how she will. With Aegon once more, I cannot trust her, thus right now I am even frightened about Rachel. She froze at her mother. I cannot even picture what transpires behind closed doors. One update. I apologize for the wait on this. Many of you were clearly seeking for it. To be honest, at home things have been so busy and demanding that I never even considered checking Reddit. When Jay returned the next day, I hugged him so tightly I believe I moved some of his organs. Aegon seemed fine, just tired, so we let him sleep for as long as he wanted. He was dismissed. Jay claimed he would never forgive Joanna for doing something like this purposefully and that he had not spoken to her at all. There was nothing to discuss with her. If it had been a mistake, perhaps somewhere along the road there might have been opportunity for pardon. Jay claimed, though, that he simply couldn't bring himself to be cool with this or forget it and carry on. What should we be doing? I asked him. At first, I had believed that we could simply let the whole family know what she had done so that some indignation would result and we would not be questioned about our choice to avoid her. But Jay looked at me as though I were insane when I suggested this. We should, he argued, do far more. She didn't consider our son as such, and that she was harmful, hence he advised me to quit thinking about her like family. God knows why she deliberately risked his life. She knew full well that Aegon's nut allergy was serious, and even though her 5-year-old daughter kept warning her, she disregarded all her advice and carried on as planned. He advised me to consider it for what it was. God alone knows what else she could do. It was something she had done out of genuine hate and resentment, not a mistake. Though I knew what he was saying was accurate, verbalizing all this seemed in a manner more real. Though there was nothing else to do, I did not want to embrace the degree to which things had devolved. Joanna was dangerous. She had shown us personally, and the only thing we could do was make sure she no longer put anyone else, most especially Rachel, in danger. When Jay asked me where Rachel was, I indicated Null had most likely grabbed her for the evening. It was the weekend the day Aegon came back, so she would have had a great 3 days with Null, and maybe by then Joanna would have cooled down so Rachel wouldn't have to deal with the most of her mother's fury. When Jay contacted Null to find out how she was doing, she claimed she was still somewhat traumatized from yesterday and simply refused to go back to Mom. Jay advised me that since no child should be this afraid of a parent, now is the greatest moment to call CPS and report her. For a while, I considered Rachel might be afraid since her account of the events did not match reality. She was just 5. It was a possibility. She blamed Joanna as she might have accidentally mixed the sandwiches on her side and was afraid we would punish her. And Joanna participated as she didn't want Aegon and Rachel's playtimes to stop over an innocent, albeit fatal, mistake. Though no youngster could lie in such precision, I somehow couldn't shake this sensation away. But I couldn't understand why Joanna would purposefully feed Aegon the sandwich even though she knew about his allergies, despite instructions not to. She had never behaved like this before. It was borderline insane. I so made the decision to give Null another call asking whether Joanna had admitted anything. She shuddered and told him everything, he said. Although he informed us it was too dark to listen to, he had surreptitiously taped the whole exchange. Still, we asked him to email the tape to us, and there we could plainly hear Joanna confessing everything. She said she did it, but she had no idea why. Furious, Null questioned her why she had not personally visited the ER. She said she can afford the bill. She should be grateful, he advised her, as Aegon would have perished without Rachel's calling. She started crying throughout the tape and kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But after that, I had no unsympathetic emotion left for her. I came to see that the daily grind had caused me to lose the gravity of the matter. And it's true. Aegon would have perished without Rachel's bravery or intelligence to summon me. I knew I had to do all in my ability to keep that a hole of a mother away from her son, and I owe her life. We told CPS everything over the phone. We informed them that we were concerned about Rachel's safety and that, should she be able to purposefully provoke an allergic response in a child and subsequently fail to respond precisely due to alleged lack of resources, we would not know how safe her own child would be with her. The officer noted this and inquired about the custody agreement. We told them everything. The next Monday, 2 days later, the cops showed up at her house. She sent a nasty text to us, indicating she knew we were behind this and that she ought to have killed Aegon when she had the chance. Since then, I have blocked her. Jay hasn't. Clearly not a mentally stable mother. He called her up and gave her a piece of his mind, telling her he would travel to the furthest points of Earth to keep Rachel safe from her. At last we lured in mother-in-law and father-in-law and told them everything. They first tried to defend Joanna, but when we listened to the tape they had nothing to say. Neither Jay nor I know what their equation with Joanna is, but both of us have told them we want nothing to do with her going forward. Although there is no neglect or abuse involved in Rachel's case, we hope CPS will take her away from her. We cannot be sure, though. She will make things terrible for her own daughter, though, if she keeps staying with Joanna. Rachel is now living with Noel permanently after CPS took her out of Joanna's custody. Joanna became insane over the official changes needed in the custody arrangement. Now we know she was funding her life with the child support money, not because she would miss Rachel or something. The child supports were ridiculous. Now she will have none. For Rachel with Noel, keeping her with him will be more financially wise. Not that it mattered to him anyhow, because the poor child has been suffering nightmares ever since the Aegon episode. Noel has also been ordered to bring Rachel to therapy. Aegon is performing nicely on his end. He simply says he had a lot of fun and that the hospital ride was the greatest part when we ask him how his stay with Auntie and Rachel went. He hardly remembers at all. I find it incomprehensible why someone would be so resentful of a child. Mother-in-law has been extremely irate with the incident. Not Aegon especially, but the one where our assistance resulted in a mother losing her kid, Joanna. How she could still be sympathetic to Joanna is beyond me. For his part, father-in-law is enraged and claims he first thought she can be this crazy. Though it still irritates me, he has apologized to us for not believing us and means well. I understood his reluctance about it all, since no father would ever want to know or accept that one of his children was able to purposefully kill the other child. Rachel and Aegon still get together quite often. Rachel shouldn't believe she did anything wrong, or that she could have done more during the day the tragedy happened. She still holds herself responsible, though, and it hurts to see her in such state. For Aegon, Jay and Nishi even created apologies cards. It must be among my most valuable items, in fact. As much as I can, I try to hang around with her. Call me traditional, but Rachel has never had a mother figure in her life. I believe a child needs one. Joanna is a mother, but I do not believe she has the necessary mothering ability. She is shown by her behavior with Aegon. Nobody who can accomplish something like that will ever have that natural sympathetic inclination. Though I know many of you will come at me in the comments for stating this, it is what it is. Though nothing is normal anymore, we attempt to normalize things for the children as much as possible. Mother-in-law Joanna told us she has been trying to get in touch with Jay and me, but she is blocked everywhere. Therefore, she has been unnecessarily suffering. Though every effort she makes has been turned down, Jay and I are treading on thin ice with her, and she is trying to gently act as a mediator. She either receives it personally or we will be no touch with her shortly. She should not be discussing that and pushing for us to once more be a family. Joanna tried to pick Rachel from her school, The institution was quick to get in touch with Noel, as they already knew about the problems in development. Rachel is safe. She simply wants to be with her mother very little. Noel is considering obtaining a restraining order, but he is unsure yet since Joanna is her mother and nothing can change that at the end of it all. Right now, it's just a heap of boiling mess. Personally, I would much rather be apart from this drama. But I do know that calling CPS on her set off the drama. Though I mean now things are getting serious and criminal, which is dangerous for everyone. I personally believe she is not a good parent overall. Who knows her next action will be? They are working on this. Should it not be resolved, the only alternative is a restraining order. Though I hope it doesn't come to pass. If it does, Joanna alone seems to be